Namaste, Masters. This is Saroja Gullapalli from Melbourne, Australia. I extend a warm welcome to all the PMC Global viewers who have joined me on this platform today to continue the wisdom sharing of Sita. Today we are up to episode 9, and before we embark on this journey of episode 9, the untold story of Sita wisdom sharing session, let's do a 2 minutes meditation. I request you to cross your feet, lock your fingers, place them on your lap, and focus on your breathing. Be with your breath, my dear masters. Be with your breath. And as you focus on your breath, I would like you to travel within, to connect to your inner silence, to connect to your inner stillness. Connect to the stream of consciousness that connects us all, and connect to the energies of our Sita Ma. And let's invite her onto this platform of wisdom sharing of the untold story of Sita today. So, my dear masters, I would like you to rub your hands together and place them on your closed eyes. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly remove your palms and open your eyes when comfortable. So, my dear masters, before we start our wisdom sharing session today, I would like to express my gratitude to Pitamaha Patri Sir, the PMC channel, and Dena Madam, who has given us this profound book. So at the end of last episode, which was episode 8, we were talking about how Sita Ma fought with the god of death, Yamadeva, and she struck a deal with him that she would give some of her lifetime to Lakshmana. That way, Yamadeva would not take Lakshmana away. And this is how Lakshmana escaped his death on the battlefield. So as Soma mentioned towards our end of episode, that there were a lot of things that Mata did for the benefit of all, for the benefit of humanity and benefit of others, which Mata never mentioned it to anyone. And Mata did mention to Hanuman that all the great works for the sake of humanity are always done away from the eyes and ears of humankind. Hence, many of the things that we have not known so far about Sita Ma's sacrifice, we're getting to know through this book. As we move forward from the story where Lakshman gets back his life and recovers from his wounds. Going on from there, both armies, they suffer great losses during the coming days in the battle. There's a lot of damage to the wildlife, the trees, to ocean life, and all the creatures. Mata had known this before, and that was one of the reasons why Mata had been always trying to prevent this big battle. During Sitama's time in Lanka, Mata had done her best to penetrate the inner kingdom of Ravana to awaken him. His mental ability had been weakened from many months of lack of sleep. We have talked about how Mata had gone into his dreams and woke up his guilt. Now it was Sri Ram's role to complete the whole process, because Mata has done the internal battle, and now it was Sri Ram's turn to finish Ravana's illusion from outside. In the end, it was Sri Ram's love that undid Ravana. As they battled day and night, Sri Ram could see the work Mata had done to really open up all that intricate web of deception that Ravana had built all these days. So Mata was seated in meditation one day when she really felt this burst of love, this unconditional love, which was just rushing over her like streams. It was like gushing fountains of water, refreshing water. And what Mata could say was it felt like a great bliss. And finally, when she opened her eyes, she could see the same love all around her. The trees in that garden, even the demon women who were guarding her, this love was just flowing through all of them. And then she realized that this was the same love which always came from Sri Rama. And there in the battlefield, before Sri Rama could shoot the final arrow, he stood for a moment looking at Ravana, very deeply gazing into his eyes, into Ravana's spirit. And that was the way he freed him from all the delusions that he was building up within himself and outside. Then Rama sent that flood of love, which he is the source of, into Ravana. And then he unleashed the final blow, and he cut all the deadly traits that had held Ravana captive in his illusions. So as Ravana lay dying, the two of them spoke. Ravana and Sri Rama spoke. Now that all the illusions had been cut by Rama, Ravana was more into his senses now on his deathbed. He asked Sri Rama, "Can I return to my home?" When he means his true abode, he's talking about Vaikuntha. But Sri Rama sadly shook his head and said, "Though I have destroyed much of your karma by pouring that love within you, but still, Ravana, there's one more birth that's needed to free yourself truly, to make sure that there is no sign of this lust or pride that has to be totally uprooted, and your ego has to be totally dissolved." And that was the last effort Ravana had to make. And then only he could come back to Vaikuntha. And as Mata knew, after this incarnation of Ravana, his spirit had to wander for millennia before he could take one more birth in towards the end of the Dwapar Yuga. And Mata could see that would be a long time. And after that, if he could get rid or uproot all his negative behavior, then there would be a chance for him to get back to his true home. Because of the unconditional love that Mata was feeling, the gush like a fountain Mata was feeling, Mata knew that the battle was over. And exactly that time when Ravana lay on the ground dead, the Amrita, the nectar that had sustained her body this long without food and water, it stopped flowing. And as she began to get up from her meditation, the waves of love that she had felt just a while ago, the moment she finished her meditation and she starting to get up, till then Mata had not got up from that position. But now when she started to get up, a great fire just totally engulfed her body. And this fire was the heat from the tapasya, from the meditation for months together, which she had done. And it felt like the whole being was burst into flames. And when when Rama and Lakshmana and others found Mata in the Ashokavan, they felt like she was seated in a bowl of fire. And Lakshmana was very, very worried. And he was very worried that Sita was being burnt alive. And he tried to run towards her. And Sri Rama said, "No, do not disturb her. She's consuming all the impurities of this place of Lanka after the war, all that impurities that are still remaining here. She's burning it with her fire of tapasya." And he said to Lakshman, "Let it burn. This is the fire of her meditation, which he has done for Ravana and for Lanka." And then the fire then withdrew back into Sitama's body and it subsided. And at that time, Soma mentions that exactly at the same time, the fire that Sitama had lit in Ayodhya's palace, you people remember, this was the flame through which Soma was able to communicate with Mata from time to time. And Soma says that this is the flame that she had been guarding. Um, and exactly at the same time, this flame in Ayodhya also burst into a big flame and then extinguished itself. After 14 years of burning non-stop, this flame went out. And at that point, Soma says, I knew either it was victory or my Mata was no longer there. Because being there in Ayodhya, if you people remember, during the last 9 months, she lost her connection with Mata. So she didn't know what was happening. But when the flame was extinguished, she realized that something must have happened there, because she knows that the time frame of the exile was finished. And in Lanka, after the flames had been absorbed into Mata's body, this is the flames of the heat from her meditation. She felt the presence of Sri Ram, and then she opened her eyes, and then an overwhelming joy rose in her because she was seeing her beloved after 9 months. And she tried to stand up, but she had not stood on her feet for days. As I mentioned, she was in non-stop meditation for 9 months. Her body, her physical body, certainly experienced weakness from lack of food, from lack of water, from lack of sleep. She hadn't slept for 9 months. And as she tried to rise, her physical world began to spin and she was unconscious on the ground. So Sri Rama picked her up and then tried to bring her back into consciousness by pouring drops of water on her face. And she was taken into the palace in Lanka. And finally, when Mata came back to her consciousness, as she promised, she took her first meal from Mandodari's hand, as she had promised Mandodari that when she starts eating, she will have her first meal through Mandodari. So Mata has never forgotten any of her promises to anybody. And then, as Mata does always, wherever there is a big battle happening, just to heal the soul of the people, she always cooks and feeds the people. So with Mandodari's help, Mata cooks and arranges a feast for all the people of Lanka. And this is Mata's way of expressing her love through cooking and feeding. And she knew this was her last act in Lanka for the sake of people of Lanka, to heal them before she could leave for Ayodhya. And before leaving Ayodhya, Mata went to the Ashoka tree that had sheltered her for so long, and she touched her forehead to the roots of the Ashoka tree. She was paying her gratitude and homage to the companion and to the witness who has seen all that difficult year along with Mata. And Mata had developed a kind of relationship with the Ashoka tree. Now this story, as you people remember, it was being heard by Anasuya and her mother. And now, to finish the story of Lanka as Mata is going towards Ayodhya, this is what Anasuya's feeling is. After telling the story till here, Soma takes a break because she's very tired, and Anasuya feels that for as long as she can remember, her heart had always been filled with love for Maharani Sita. And as if you people remember, she comes back from school and never wants to go back to the ashram because she feels that people there did not understand Mata really, and they were not really telling the true story of Mata. But now, after she has heard this story, she knew she had a deep love or connection with Sita Mata hidden in her heart She wanted to stay with Soma back. She developed a connection with Soma, the reason for which she never knew. She wanted to learn more from Soma. She wanted to serve Soma, but she did not dare mention it to her mother, because we all know why Anasuya's mother has brought her to Soma, because they wanted her to get married. So she knew that her parents won't like it. Her parents won't like it if she tells them that I want to stay back here with Soma. But deep in her heart, she could feel that there was a long connection with Soma. Listening to Soma had mysteriously broken down a block in her heart. There was a resistance in her mind all the time, and that she couldn't find anymore. By listening to Sita Ma's story through Soma, she felt that the love that they were talking about really flowed through her. Now it didn't seem to matter what Anasuya wanted in life. Anasuya thought, I don't mind if I get married or I don't. But this path, the path of coming to Soma, has brought me closer to Sita Ma, and I'm so contented. This is the only thing that mattered. I always wanted to know what happened to our Maharani, and now I know what happened to our Maharani. Next day, when they come back to Soma to continue the story, then she asks, can you share with us how Maharani Sita returned to Ayodhya? How did she come? So they really wanted to know how was the return of Shri Ram and Sita Ma back to Ayodhya. And also the biggest question that Anasuya had in her mind was, because Soma told her that she is in this ashram because this is where Sita Ma spent her last days. So she asks Soma, how did Sita Ma come to live in this place so far from the city like this one? And then Soma says it's a long story and it's a very complex story. Then she says it's difficult to convey, what Mata's role was in the world, since so much she did lay hidden, even to this day. That is so true, my dear friends, what Soma is saying, because what each of us know about Mata so far is so little. And this is how Mata kept it. She never wanted to make it a big announcement of what she did. And hence, it is so difficult to convey, how to see Mata. And it's like layer by layer. Every incident that we know about Mata, what she has done, it's like another layer peeled in Mata's life. So, but Soma says, this is my job to bring it all open into so that the story goes to everyone. Though Mata did not share with many, but this is my job to really share it with everyone. And then she sits in a meditation for some time, sounding Om, and just to get some peace, because the story of Mata is not yet over, my dear friends. Though many of us, when we hear Ramayana, the moment Ravana is killed, a big sigh of relief comes to all of us, because we know that the negative forces have ended and it's all joy in the life of the heroes, the Rama and Sita. But honestly, when you read this book, The Untold Story of Sita, what Lanka and the role of Ravana happens to be, it's only a part of Sita Ma's story. So really, you can say the part two honestly starts from here. Though in the book we have part one and part two in the form of Meenakshi and Anasuya, but in the true terms of Sitayana, we can say the part one finishes with Ravana's death, but the part two has just began, my dear friends. So as Soma continues with his story, after Sri Ram and Mata, they leave Lanka. They first stop to offer their praise to Mahadev, because when Sri Ram started his battle, he first prays to Mahadev before he starts building his army. So on the way back, they are again paying their respects to Mahadev for supporting them in this battle with the negativity or with the asuras. And the way they came, exactly that's the way they are retreating. So after praying to Mahadev, they reach Panchavati, and at Panchavati, guess who they visit? They visit Chandrika. Do you remember Sage Chandrika? Just before Surpanakha comes, we have talked about Sage Chandrika. So Sri Ram and Mata Sita, they both go and visit Chandrika. So because Mata promises her that she would visit again, and Mata never forgets her word. But because she was kidnapped, she wasn't able to go back to Chandrika, or even if not kidnapped, because of her stay in Lanka, Mata could not go to Chandrika back. So now she keeps her word. She's so pleased to see Chandrika, and as Chandrika promised, Chandrika is pursuing her meditational practice and her spiritual practices, like how she says to Mata, and Mata sees her sitting in a meditation, and she can see that she has really practiced a lot of spiritual knowledge in the last few months, and there's a lot of difference between the Chandrika she had seen before and after. And but she's still living in that same broken hut, spending all her time in austerities and doing spiritual practices. And then Mata tells her that, my dear Chandrika, you have done a great practice, and in a few years' time, a son would come to her. And Chandrika is looking in amazement. I mean, she thinks her husband is dead, and Mata is talking about a son. She says, how is it possible, Mata? And then Sita Mata says, very soon you'll see a small boy who'll be wandering in the forest and he'll come to you. And she says, your husband who abandoned you will now find himself abandoned by his mother. That means her husband who has died has already born. And in this incarnation, his mother will abandon him. See, my dear friends, this is the cycle of karma. What you do to others comes back to you. In his previous life, he abandoned his wife. So in this life, his mother will abandon him. And many times when we do not see the big picture, or when we cannot know the big picture, or cannot understand the big picture, the poor me thing, the self-pity always arises. Poor me, why me? This is such a classic example. That little boy, when his mother would abandon, he would also have the same feeling. Why me? I'm only a little boy. Why is my mother abandoning me? But if only he could see his previous life where he had done the same to his wife. So Mata is explaining that he's already taken birth, and very soon his mother will abandon him, and he will come wandering in the forest to you. And Mata asks Chandrika that, give him shelter, raise him like your own son, and then he will become your student, because now Chandrika is teaching. She has opened her own hermitage. So Mata is saying he'll become your student and he'll learn from you, and he will grow very attached to you because of his previous life samskaras. He'll grow very attached to you. And Mata says to Chandrika, you have still so much love in your heart towards your husband, though because of his deeds, you're not feeling it. But whatever love you have, you shower it on him. And only by showering your love on that boy, you can heal yourself, and you can heal him of his past deeds. Whatever he has done in the past, he will be burning with agony. He will be burning with guilt. So that's the only way. So that's the trick, my dear master. Love is one thing that can really heal anything, even our past life deeds. And how beautiful way to express it, that Mata says, just shower your love on him, because that's the only thing that can heal you and him of his past deeds. And Chandrika's eyes, filled with tears at these words. And Chandrika says, oh, am I going to see him again? And Mata says, don't worry. But this time, Mata is worried that she might be feeling, oh my God, what kind of husband am I going to see again? But Mata says, don't worry, because he will be much better behaved. And then Mata says, you will set him on a course. This time, because of your education and hermitage, you will take him on a path that he will not go stray from that. So you're going to give him good knowledge. Um, and then Sri Ram says, Chandrika, while Sita was away in Lanka, and Chandrika was praying Lord non-stop, and he says, your prayers were a source of strength to Sita while she was away, and for that I'm very grateful. And Mata says to Chandrika, Chandrika, when you get your husband back in the form of your son, I just want to let you know that that is because of Sri Ram's blessing. Because if you guys remember, Sri Ram performs the last rites of Chandrika's husband when he finds him dead in the river, and from that point onward, Sri Ram has been guiding that soul so that the soul comes back to Chandrika. So Mata mentions that to Chandrika, and Sri Ram says, Chandrika, whatever happened in his last life, that is done. This time, You raise your son to the sage he was always meant to be. Like whatever in his last life he was meant to be, a great sage running a great hermitage. That couldn't happen. But now you can raise your son the way you want. Like son means husband from the previous life. So saying that, they return to Ayodhya, and when they reach Ayodhya, there's a great celebration in Ayodhya. After 14 years, Sri Ram and Sita Mata has come, and now from this point onwards, the story that we are hearing is through Soma again. Soma was also telling us the previous story, but that part of the story from where Soma could not connect through Mata's flame, till this point that Mata returns to Ayodhya, that 1 year story has come from Sita Ma to Hanuman, and from Hanuman to Soma, and from Soma to Ansuya and her mother, and to us. But from now, what story we are hearing is directly through Soma to us. So, my dear friends, now this is phase 3 of Soma's story. So, phase 1 was when she first told her narration, then through Hanuman, phase 2, and now back to Soma, phase 3. Um, and Soma says, I have no words to describe when I saw Mata and Sri Ram again. It has been such a long time, I felt. Um, though Mata was as beautiful as she left, but because Soma knew Mata so well, Soma says, I felt a weakening in Mata's life energy, like prana. And nobody else might have seen that, but I couldn't help but notice because I've known Sitama from a very young age. And Soma says it must have all because of all the sacrifices she did in Lanka or anywhere else, how much torment she went through when she was in Lanka in the Ashokvana. And Soma says maybe that's true with even Sri Rama, that his life energy also may have weakened, but because I have never shared that closeness with Sri Rama, I couldn't say about Sri Rama. But according to Soma, she really felt that she could see some difference in Mata. But overall, Mata's physical health and everything was great. The way she walked, the way she spoke, it was fantastic. And but one thing everyone noticed between the two between the two people, the couple was, since they left Ayodhya, now that they had come back, their composer was very mature and as accomplished pair. They had accomplished so much in this 14 years, and they had special bond between them, uninterrupted bond, except for that 9 months in Lanka. And people could see their love and dedication for each other just went to another stage. And Soma explains that love between the pair so beautiful. And when Mata comes back to Ayodhya, so when she returns to Ayodhya, she asks Soma about all the servants. There were 4 servants altogether, but by the time Mata returns, only Soma is surviving. Though Mata knows about the other 3, but still Mata checks Soma about the other 3 who haven't survived to see her return. And she also asks about the other Maharanis, how they are going. And she thinks about Urmila because she knows Lakshman was along with them. And Urmila, she was in the palace all alone without her husband. And that union between her sister Urmila and Sita was a very happy reunion. And then, as we all know, my dear friends, the next thing that follows is the coronation of Sri Rama as he sits on the throne as a king. And our Sita Ma becomes Rani Mata. And then they both settle back into their palace life. And what Mata sees in this 14 years of her not being in Ayodhya, and now that she has come back, she sees a lot of change in Ayodhya city. The city has grown quite big, which is quite expected. But what she sees is now it's grown big, new lands have been acquired, and definitely trade has increased. But what has also happened along with that is a lot of foreign traders and visitors, strangers are coming into Ayodhya city streets and markets. And one thing that everyone is talking about, that the streets are less safe or less safer than what they used to be. And now Mata is very surprised that the way people are talking is, it's very unwise for women to wander in the streets alone or in the night. And so everyone is advising women to stay, at home or confined to their palaces. And this is something Mata cannot accept. She has been for 14 years through the forest, and this is not what she has seen. Of course, there were demons, asuras, and negative energy people, but that was a different ball game. Here she has come back amongst the humanity, and here she's seeing there's so much change happening within Ayodhya city in the last 14 years. So one day when Shri Ram and Mata are just going around the city in their chariot, Mata asks the chariot to be stopped when they're just passing by a shop, a stall which sells a plant medicine. And Mata can see there a man, and she gets down her chariot and goes and starts talking to this man. And she says, Mata says, oh, you're looking for some remedy or plant medicine for your ill mother? She says, you will not find it here in the shop. Come, follow me. As we all know, Mata knows nature so well. So she knows, this particular shop fellow doesn't know anything or doesn't know as much as she knows. So then she asks this man to follow her. And as Mata gets down the chariot and starts looking, she's going into the nature for the plant medicine for this person's ill mother. All the guards are running after Mata because now she's queen, and they don't want her to go alone. So, and Mata goes to Sarayu River, and she's looking for this plant medicine on the side of the Sarayu River, because Mata has always done that. And by the way, something very important that I should have mentioned is when Mata comes back to Ayodhya, the first thing she does is go to Sarayu River, and she expresses her gratitude to Sarayu Mata. So now this time when she goes to Sarayu River, she says to the man that you will find here exactly the plant that you're looking for your mother's ailment. And she then describes the plant in great detail to that man, and also tells him how to prepare it. And she says to him, look, take the plant, make the medicine, this is how it's made. But once your mother recovers, ask her to come and see me. And then, because Mata doesn't have much time, she's got guards approaching. So that man quickly thanks Mata for being so kind and showing her where he can find the plant medicine and how to make it. And then Mata goes back. But the guards are not leaving Mata at all. So Sri Ram says to the guards, look, don't worry about Mata. She was in Lanka surrounded by demons. They could not do anything to her. What can people of Ayodhya, or even, foreigners in Ayodhya, what can they do to Mata? So don't worry about her. And but then the chief of the guards comes to Sri Ram that night and requests him, please ask Mata not to go in the wild, because it's not the same Ayodhya. He's doing his job. Not to say that Mata can't look after herself, but he's doing his job, so that Mata can, so that he can be rest assured. So some weeks later, what happens is this old woman, shouldn't say old woman, this ill mother of that man, once the person finds the plant and makes the medicine for his mother, she gets better, and she comes to the palace gate because Sita Mata tells him that, once your mom gets better, send her to the palace. She comes, but the guards won't let her in. She comes twice, but the guards are driving her back. And second time, Soma sees that these guards are sending some woman away. And she immediately recognizes that woman. Oh, this is the same woman who used to go to Sarayu Nadi, to Sarayu River, to pray for Mata when she was in Lanka. But she doesn't understand, who is she? So she goes and asks the guard, who was that woman who wanted to come in? And then the guards say, oh, she's come before, she's come again. And we asked her to go to the public audience where, Maharani can see her. But she has refused, and she wants to keep saying it's a private matter, and she wants to see the queen. And so that evening, Soma goes and tells Mata that, this lady, there was this lady who came. And Mata starts thinking, and then Mata says, I can see that, it was her son who was looking for the plant medicine, and I had shown him the herb, and I had also asked him to tell his mother to come and see me. I'm so sorry that he was turned away by the guards. So she feels quite disturbed that why the guards are being so rude to this woman. And when Sri Ram comes and sees Mata, he says to Mata, don't be disturbed. You have to do what you have to do. Um, See, if there are things you have to do to make people better, you just keep continuing. So Mata gets the hint, and that night she tells Soma, um, next day morning we are going to Sarayu River. That means Mata cannot go in her queen attire because the guards won't let her out. So she tells Soma, get your dress. So next day morning, Mata dresses herself like a maid using Soma's dress, and the two of them quietly leave the palace. And they have done this before, if you remember, my dear friends, when Mata gets married and she comes from Mithila to Ayodhya. She's so used to going to nature, and in Ayodhya, people don't let her go out of the palace. So she has done this before, dressing like a maid, and she goes with Soma and Meenakshi to Sarayu River, if you remember. So this time again, Mata is using the disguise of the maid, and she goes out. And because the guards can't recognize, they think they are, servant maids. So he nods and let them pass. So from there, Mata and Soma, they go directly to the river. They offer their prayers. Mata loves going to Sarayu River. Um, and they spend some time there, and then Mata says, look, now the the daylight is about to break, and we have to see this woman for whom we have actually come. So they go to that woman's house, and Hassan opens the door. He's shocked to see the Maharani standing there in servant's clothing. So he just falls to her feet. He said, Mata, Maharani, I can't thank you. How much you have done for my family. My mother was so ill, but you brought life back to her. Mata is so modest. He says, I didn't do it. It was the medicine. And then she says, there are wonderful medicine plants that are growing by the side of Sarayu, but our physicians, they know nothing about them. I'm so glad your mother recovered. Can I meet your mother? So then she goes inside, and she sees that in a corner there's an older woman who is still quite weak. She's recovering from her illness. And that woman quickly rises to meet Mata. Mata says, it's okay, you sit down. Mata says, I have come to apologize for what the guards did to you. Such a noble woman. She is a queen. She has already done what she could, telling her son what kind of herbs, how to make the concoction. And in spite of that, her generosity did not end there. Just because she saw the guards haven't dealt with this woman well, she has come all the way to apologize. So then she says, I've really come all the way to apologize. Um, I did ask you to meet me, but I'm so sorry my guards didn't let you come in. And then she asks, what's your name? And that old woman tells her that her name is Apita. Apita? And that name keeps resounding in Mata's being. And then tears start flowing from Mata's eyes as if she's remembering something. And then she's so much overcome by emotions that she can hardly speak. And finally, when she can speak, she says, Apita, when I was in Lanka, I heard your chants. Remember, my dear friends, Sage Devahuti comes and takes Mata in her astral body form to Sarayu River, where Abita is praying for. Where Abita is praying for Sitama's safety. And not only Abita was the first one apparently who started the prayer, and then all the Ayodhya women come and join. So that's what Mata says, that when the rest of the Ayodhya was sleeping, you and your fellow women, you used to pray for me, in the rain, in the cold, in the dark. All these women, doesn't matter how bad the weather was or how dark it was, how 24 hours they were praying for Mata when she was gone. And Mata says, you were my protection. Because of your prayers, I had this protective shield around me, which did not allow anybody to reach me. I'm so grateful, and I will remember you always, Abita. Because Mata knows even Ravana could not pierce that. Nobody could even break the protective shield except Trijata, who had a kind heart and a clear heart. And that's what Mata now remembers, and she has tears in her eyes. You know, these Ayodhya women who I hardly knew, because Mata was less than a year in Ayodhya before she goes to the exile. So Mata is so overjoyed that she's seeing Abita herself. And then Abita says, Maharani, you know, you don't have to praise me so much. You know, I'm your servant, and that's the least I should do. And then Mata says such a great thing. She says, we are all servants here. We are serving each other in various ways. And that is the greatness of, you know, people. Is Mata, she never saw herself as superior or inferior. When Abita says, I'm your servant, she says we're all servants. And that's what we need to remember, my dear masters. Servant is not a low word or anything like that. Dushyanta, Meenakshi's father, tells, you know, we in Mata says that we in this universe are all serving each other in some way or the other. So we're all servants, isn't it? Whichever ways we serve. Even a king is a servant because he's serving his kingdom. A great way for Mata to say, so apt for this conversation. And then Mata says, I must be getting back to the palace before people miss me, because she has seen that how guards were chasing her the other day. And then she tells Abita, look, what I had to do to meet you. I had to dress up like a servant to escape the guards. And then she says to Abita, you need to regain your strength. And she says, Abita, you know, very soon you're going to have a grandson. So that means she's saying that your son is going to get married and you're going to have a grandson soon. And Abita, you have to get better, because you have so much to teach your grandson. And listening those words, Abita's eyes start glowing. Mata says that when you have a grandson, he will love you dearly. And you know, the love that you have in your heart, Abita, your grandson will carry forward that love in your heart. Isn't that interesting, masters? You know, what Mata is telling us, you know, how we can pass even the qualities generation by generation. One doesn't have to feel sad that he's going to die away and he will be forgotten in this world. We will never be forgotten, my dear masters, because we can, you know, the qualities which we have, or the essence of us, can really go forward through generations and generations. You know, that's what we can pass on, and that way we can always be immortal. That's what Mata is saying, that your grandson that you will have will love you dearly, and that way you can carry forward this unconditional love you have in your heart. And Mata is so grateful for this woman who has looked after her in Lanka through her prayers at Sarayu. So Mata holds her hand and squeezes her hand with so much love and affection. And then she stands up to leave. And as Mata is going towards the door, suddenly Mata stops back. She turns around, and then, you know, Mata always had this big silver pendant which her mother Sunaina Ma had given her when she left Mithila, which always hangs around her neck. Even in Lanka, it was always there with her. So she had been wearing it. So now she takes it away, removes it and gives it to Abita and says, Abita, I want you to have this. This was something that my mother gave, and this is very precious to me. And I can think of no one that I can give this to, and I want you to keep it. Um, and she says to Abita, someday when the time is right, you will give this beautiful pendant to your grandson. And Mata says that it'll make me very happy to know that this pendant has gone to your grandson. See, Mata, this is the greatness of her. Whatever she does is just not for the present. She can see so much in the future. And as we go forward, all these things that I'm telling you, my dear friends, just remember all this. They're not just part of the stories, but they're big links in this untold story of Sita or Sitayana. So remember this, that Mata has given this beautiful pendant to Abita, and she's asking Abita that you will have a grandson who will love you and you will love him. And one day when the time is right, you will give this pendant to your grandson, and I will wait to see that. And Abita is just overjoyed. She thinks it's a great honor to get this pendant from Mata. But Soma says that she has seen something has exchanged between Mata and Abita when Mata touched Abita. But she doesn't understand. But one thing she knows, she has to get back home because it's daylight is breaking, and then she doesn't want Mata to be caught on the streets. It's already filling up with people. So they're quickly rushing back to the palace. And on the way, what happens is now the streets are getting full of people. And right at that moment, a man who's carrying a huge load on his back ran straight into Mata. And because of that impact, Mata falls onto the ground. Instead of even apologizing to Mata, he has impacted her. Mata is on the ground. But because Mata has got her face covered with veil, they don't know it's Maharani. They can't see her. She's dressed in servant's dress, so they're thinking she's servant. Without helping her to get up, he doesn't help her to get up. He doesn't apologize. Instead, he yells at her. And he screams at her and says, "You servant should stay out of our way." And not only that, he makes a gesture like he's about to kick her. And then Soma quickly pulls Mata up and lifts Mata onto her feet. And in that second, what happens was Mata's veil covers a side. And whoever are there, they're able to recognize the Maharani. So she quickly covers her head, and Soma quickly says, "Okay, make way for the servants of Maharani." And she screams and, runs out, taking Maharani from there. So once they are back in the room, they quickly change. And then so Soma says that Soma feels very bad that whoever the citizen was, who pushed or who rammed into Mata, and Mata fell on the floor. He was attempting to kick her. And she comes to Mata and she says, "Mata, I'm so sorry what I saw. He made no apology to you after he knocked you down." And Mata says, "It doesn't matter, if you are thinking that I'm a Rani and Maharani and he should not done this to me, first of all, he cannot do this to anyone. And to a woman, I mean, he's thinking of considering of kicking a woman. How dare?" And she says to Soma, "Soma, it doesn't matter, it was me. It could have been anyone else. It's equally bad." And she says, like Mata is, she says to Soma, "I would rather take the hit myself than, somebody else taking that kick upon them." Mata is always like that. She's happy to take everyone's pain, everyone's assault, humiliation, everything. Mata is happy to take it. And Mata says, "Soma, in one day today, we have seen the best and the worst of Ayodhya." So what was the best they saw? They saw Abhita, who put everything aside, to serve Maharani, sitting at the Sarayu Nadi banks and, selflessly praying for Mata. So they met Abhita. And then they also met the worst of Ayodhya, which is a man who happily pushed her and was not even hesitant of kicking her. And she says to Soma, "We have to remember Abhita and hope that she becomes the future of Ayodhya, not this man who's happily ready to kick anyone." And then the moment Mata says Abhita word, a smile crosses Mata's face. So that's when Soma asks, "What, Mata, what is it about this Abhita? What is so good or precious, important about Abhita that you gave your precious pendant?" Because Soma knows that this pendant was very special for Mata and it was given by her mother to her. So she doesn't understand why Mata had made such a big decision. And then Mata tells her about the reason behind why she had given the pendant to Abhita. So the story goes is, she says to Soma, in a previous birth of Abhita, she was a very pious woman and she was from a very great family in Mithila. So in previous life, she belongs to Mithila, this Abhita. Friends, you have to listen to this story carefully. This is how this whole Sita and I is the untold story of Sita. Every bit that we are listening is just not for the sake of a story. It has got something, a link somewhere for us to understand. And that shows us this whole life is not a coincidence. Anything happening to us, even now, my dear friends, my telling you this wisdom sharing of the untold story of Sita and you sitting there and watching my video is not a coincidence, my dear friends. This has linked to something that has yet to come or something that has already happened, maybe yesterday or 10 years ago or 100 years ago or in our previous lives. So such an important message at every stage. So going ahead, Mata is telling the story. She's saying in a previous birth, this woman was a very pious woman. Her husband misbehaved and was cursed by a powerful sage. Are you reminded of something, my dear friends? And then Mata says, because of the curse, they lost everything and they suffered greatly. And then this woman's husband died. This is in her previous incarnation in Mithila. So the husband died and she was left alone to raise her son. And that was her only surviving child. Rest of the children died. How did they die? Because of the curse of the sage. So the father had been cursed and the children died. Only one survived. And then the Janaka was so generous and kind that he took this family as he looked after them. And, they all worked as servants. Now it's reminding you of something. And the Janaka family, they felt keenly for this woman, and they took her. And then from there on, her sons and their sons have all been servants in Janaka's family. And for that, Abhita was immensely grateful to Janaka. And she takes a vow in that life that she will dedicate her life to Janak Baba's family in her future births. So she takes a vow in that life that because Janaka has done so good to her and to her family at the time when they were going through this terrible curse, that she will dedicate her life in her future births to this family of Janaka. And Sita Ma is of Janaka's daughter, isn't it? So in that life, she served in the household of Janaka so faithfully. And then she died when she was quite young, because her husband died at an early age because of curse. She went through so much. So she didn't survive long. So she died at a very young age. And then she took a subsequent birth in Mithila again. And she served in the household. So her next life was again in Mithila. Again, she served in the household. But then the following life, she was born in Ayodhya. But that didn't mean that her devotion to Janaka's family lessened. So just before we continue this Abhita story, what I wanted to tell you was that this was her devotion in her mind, how much devoted she was, that one life where she expresses her devotion, that she wants to continue it life after life. She's continuing that tradition. So this time when she was born in Ayodhya, her devotion to Sita's family never ceased, though she doesn't remember why she's feeling like that, because she doesn't have previous births memory like any of us. But this feeling that comes, which we call intuition, my dear friends, this is that tradition, those samskaras that she has had from the previous life. So because of that feeling, she takes a vow, and she's still being faithful with Sita Ma. All through these years, she's been faithful to Janaka and his lineage. So because somewhere deep inside she knows, and when she comes, she's born in Ayodhya, she knows in her heart, not, she doesn't know in her mind, but in her heart, she knows that she has this devotion towards descendants of Janaka's family, and Sita Ma. That's why she's serving. This is what leads her to go and pray for Sita Ma on Sarayu river bank. See, so beautiful, my dear friends. And this is what is so intriguing to me. What happens in one life, how it has got, the impacts going on. So what took place long ago in this lady's life, but her devotion did not die. And this is, Sita Ma says to Soma, this is the power of love. It carries from one generation to another, from one birth to the next. So that devotion that Abhita had for one Janaka, in the time of one of the Janakas, her devotion did not stop there. She felt it from the bottom of her heart that the king had looked after her at a time when she needed the most. And hence, life after life, she has dedicated her life in the service of Janaka's descendants. And now in this lifetime in Ayodhya, now she's serving for Sita Ma. Not that she wants to, she's not planning it, but it is the devotion that's coming. So now there is a very good comparison here, my dear friends, when we talk about our previous lives and how it flows. If you remember Mandodari, Mandodari also has her previous life memories through Sita Ma's blessings. And at that time, Sita Ma shows her life where all Mandodari wanted was to get married. Because she can never get married because her parents can't find a suitable suitor for her. So she vows that when I take birth next time, if I can get married, if I'm fortunate enough to get married, I will give away everything. I'll give away my happiness, everything for my husband's happiness. So now if you compare both of them, one Abhita, the other one Mandodari. Mandodari's thirst was so selfish. It was all about me. It was all about me. It's like, I have to be happy. This is my reason why, Ravana is my husband. If only I could get a husband, I would put everything in to him, to the point that she left the good of the society. She didn't care about the society at all. She didn't even care her own self-dignity. But because she had such strong thoughts in her life that she has to dedicate everything for her husband without even having a reasonable thinking, when she took another life and got married to Ravana by force, she didn't want to, it was all by force. But see, the previous janma, the previous life's deep conscious thoughts made her to do things that she did. So she forgot her dharma. Whereas in case of Abhita, even this is her previous life memory. But here, this is an unconditional love. This is a love for the good. And see the difference between, how thoughts, both are thoughts from the previous life, but what can one do and what can the other do? So my dear friends, it's very important for us. This is what shows us that the thoughts that we cherish in our minds are just not limited to this life. They go for many lives ahead. So we should be very careful. What kind of thoughts? Are they selfish thoughts? Are they just for our sake? Is it any good to the humanity, the desires we have? Because they can ruin many lives if they are not for the good of the society. Or if they are for the good of the society, they are going to do benefit for many people in the coming incarnations. This is classic example in the form of comparison between Mandodari and Abhita. So my dear friend, this is a lesson, this is a message for us from this book. And then Meenakshi is asking, now this is the whole story. Sita Ma is telling Meenakshi about it. And then Meenakshi asks, Meenakshi can put two and two together. As I was asking you this question, do you remember who this story, Abhita's story is? And exactly the same question Soma had. And she says, was this lady ancestor of Meenakshi? And then Mata says, indeed she was. She says, you know, Meenakshi's great-great-grandmother had to suffer her husband's curse, because this everyone knows in Mithila, that Meenakshi's great-great-grandmother had to suffer because her husband did something harm, to a sage, and he had cursed her. He had cursed the man, not only him, but many generations to come. And although that woman hadn't done anything wrong, she suffered. Generations suffered, including Meenakshi's father, Dushyanta. And even Meenakshi, she was never allowed to get married, because you remember what her father used to say, oh no, some misfortune is going to come to you, your husband will die or your children will die, so don't get married. So Mata is saying that Mata knew this, that Meenakshi was cursed. So, and now Mata sees Abhita and she can put everything together. Mata says, it touched me deeply to see Abhita's devotion through all these years, not only years, through all these births. Her devotion has not died. And she says, that is why I gave my precious possession. Now look at Mata. Mata says, love is not a stream that just flows one way. Love is a stream that flows both the direction. Only when the love goes both the directions, it will flourish. If it is only one way, it will flow for some time, and then sediments will start forming. So beautifully Mata says, She gave so much love to my family, she gave so much life to Janka's family, generations. And not only that, even today, she's given so much love, and that, you know, we return to her, and her descendants continue to flow through her prayers. Like, she's everything that prayers that she had done. And she said, look, I got a chance today to acknowledge what she did and return this love. And then Mata says to um, Soma, that what I'm talking about, this two-sided love, in fact, it's not like a stream. This is called a cycle of love. It is cycle. What you give comes back to you. What you give comes back to you. My dear friends, everything in the universe, everything in this creation is all cyclic, including the time that we talked before, the big cycle of time. And this is the cycle of love that sustains us all. And this is how universe works. Mata has given us such a great, great, great principle of how this universe works. Because remember, Sri Ram always says that Mata, Sita, you're full of love. And it is that love that flows out of you which sustains this universe. Not only the universe, me as well. So many times we quoted this, what Ram says, Sri Ram says. That's what Mata is explaining to Soma. She's saying, this is what I'm trying to explain, Soma, that the unconditional love that I'm talking about, it's the cycle of love, and it sustains us. And this is how the universe works. And such a beautiful truth. So, my dear friends, it's very important for us to remember that this whole creation is just based on one thing, which is love, which is the highest vibrational energy, highest form of energy with highest vibration, to the point that everything in existence today, the basic building block behind it is universal love. So, remembering of this universal love and what this universe is made of, I would like to conclude today's episode at this point of time. Thank you very much. And when we come back again to go through our next episode, we will continue from here. But I feel so happy listening to Mata's last line where we are leaving this episode, that it is the cycle of love that sustains us all, and this is how the universe works. Thank you very much, my dear masters, and I wish you a great week. Enjoy. Thank you.